You have a really inspiring story of being a top athlete, skier, cyclist, cross country, to paraplegic, to presence coach, to now help other people make their life an adventure. Now, what's really cool about you right away when I hear you speak is how grounded and raw and honest you are. And I just love that. Was it a cultivated process or has it always been there and you have just been gifted with that?
It was, for me, it was an experience of, and by it, being as grounded as I am. It's something that I began cultivating growing up in Maine. The people that live in Maine, just for the most part, are pretty grounded. And I grew up living on an organic blueberry farm. And my early childhood memories were just of myself and nature, whether that was in blueberry fields or riding my bike or swimming or whatever. I just have a lot of experiences, or I have a lot of memories of just that self and nature experience without all of the mental chatter. And so that, I think, really helped to instill a grounded personality and energy. And then we'll talk about this more, but you mentioned the paraplegia. When I became paraplegic, that was really ungrounding for me. It put me in a state where it's really hard to name it, but somewhat disassociated, a state of reference. It was, I went from feeling like a very grounded 24-year-old athlete to suddenly feeling a lot like, it was like I became innocent and almost boyish, I felt. Now, people on the outside may not have seen that, but for me, there was a lot of needing to try to find myself and fit in, and confusion that was wrapped around going from being able bodied to suddenly becoming disabled at the age of 24. So, the way I am now, the groundedness that you see now is really a return to who I've always been that is not dissociated.
So it's like going through the hero's journey, part of your superpower of this groundedness, this man, this force for good that I see in front of me actually came from this wound that and this trauma that you experience. Is that an accurate way to reflect back what you said?
Yeah, yeah. And it gave me so much firsthand experience with what it's like to not feel like oneself, which created a lot of compassion, I think, for me, because I think I was lucky enough to feel like myself a lot. And then when I became paraplegic, I didn't feel like myself at all,
Mm.
in certain respects. And so I had to go through a lot of work to get out of my head, to move past ideas that I started to develop about myself, limiting beliefs that I started to develop about myself, and return to my true self. So it gave me a lot of compassion for where that happens with people, because I don't know if otherwise I would have had quite as much. I know that I wouldn't have had as much insight into the way that people can become disassociated from themselves.